She boarded that flight with confidence, a black CEO on her way to seal the biggest deal of her career. But before the plane even took off, everything changed. A flight attendant's single act, a suitcase kicked, a glare that said "Know your place," turned an ordinary trip into a public humiliation seen by hundreds. No one stepped in. No one said a word. But what she did next would shake an entire industry and expose the kind of quiet racism that hides behind polite smiles. How does one moment of disrespect ignite a movement no one saw coming? Before that flight, Maya Thompson's life looked like success. She was the kind of woman headlines rarely got right. A young black CEO who had built her tech company from a tiny apartment and late-night coding sessions into a global name. Every meeting, every deal, every sleepless night had been a climb against doubt, not just from investors, but from a world that still questioned how someone like her got to the top. She'd learned to keep her composure, to smile through the subtle comments, to walk into rooms where she was the only black woman and still command respect. That morning, she packed her suitcase carefully, planning every detail for her upcoming presentation, the one that could change her company's future. At the airport, everything seemed routine. Check-in, security, boarding call. Maya was tired, but proud. Another flight, another chance to prove what she was capable of. As she walked down the narrow aisle toward her seat, she caught a few glances, some curious, some cold. She'd learned to ignore them, but that day, something was different. The air felt heavier, the smiles sharper, and when her suitcase brushed the edge of a flight attendant's shoe, Maya didn't know that a simple moment of inconvenience was about to unravel years of composure and expose something much deeper than just a misunderstanding in the sky. The cabin lights were dim, passengers still finding their seats, overhead bins slamming shut. Maya reached for her row, juggling her laptop bag and carry-on. She smiled politely, stepping aside for an elderly couple to pass. But as she slid her suitcase into the overhead compartment, she felt a sharp tap on her arm. "Ma'am," the flight attendant's voice cut through the noise, tight, impatient. "You're holding everyone up!" Maya blinked, confused. She wasn't. The aisle was clear. "I'm just putting my bag away," she said softly. The attendant's expression didn't change. She reached past Maya and, with a single, forceful motion, kicked Maya's suitcase deeper into the compartment. It hit the back wall with a thud. Gasps fluttered from nearby passengers. Maya froze her breath, caught somewhere between disbelief and humiliation. She wanted to say something, to ask why, but the attendant was already turning away, muttering something under her breath. The look she gave Maya before walking off wasn't about luggage. It was about power. Maya sat down, heart pounding. She could feel eyes on her, some curious, some avoiding her altogether. The man across the aisle gave a small shake of his head, as if to say, "Let it go." But how do you let go when the sting isn't just from what happened? It's from what it means. Minutes passed. The plane filled with chatter, laughter, the rustle of snack wrappers. The world had already moved on, but Maya hadn't. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her laptop, pretending to work. Inside, her thoughts screamed. If I speak up, I'm angry. If I stay quiet, I'm complicit. Then came the announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts." The same voice, calm, professional, the voice that had just humiliated her. When the wheels lifted off the ground, so did the mask Maya had worn her entire career, the one that told her to stay polite, stay composed, stay safe. She began typing furiously. Not an email, not a report. A post. She wrote every detail. The suitcase, the look, the silence of those who watched. Her hand shook as she hit publish, not knowing that within hours her story would spread like wildfire. But in that moment, high above the clouds, she wasn't thinking about the internet. She was thinking about the young girl she used to be, the one told she had to work twice as hard and smile twice as wide just to be treated as equal. As the plane began to descend, the attendant walked by again. Eyes cold, voice polite. Hope you had a pleasant flight. Maya didn't answer. She looked out the window, the city lights flickering below. Somewhere deep inside, something shifted quiet at first, but growing stronger with every heartbeat. Because sometimes, it isn't the loud moments that change everything. It's the quiet ones, the ones that break something inside you, just enough to make you fight back. By the time the plane landed, Maya's post had already gone viral. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Messages, notifications, interview requests. The world had seen the video another passenger quietly recorded. The suitcase, the shove, the look. It wasn't just her story anymore, it was every story. Every quiet humiliation that went unseen every time someone was told to let it go. But with attention came backlash. The airline released a statement, calling it a misunderstanding. Comment sections exploded. Some praised her courage, others called her angry, ungrateful, playing the race card. The narrative twisted in every direction except the truth. Maya sat in her office, staring at the screen. The same confidence that once built her company now felt hollow. She had exposed something real, and the world wanted to bury it again. Then came the email. A corporate executive, the same airline she'd flown with, inviting her to a private meeting. We'd like to discuss what happened, it read, and how we can move forward. She arrived early, her pulse steady but cold. Around the boardroom table sat a dozen people in tailored suits, their smiles polished, their eyes calculating. The room smelled of money and control. One man spoke first. Miss Thompson, we're deeply sorry for the incident. We're committed to diversity training and sensitivity initiatives. Maya listened not to the words, but to the tone. It wasn't apology. It was damage control. She could have accepted it, taken their token gesture, walked away quietly, and let them clean their image. Instead, she leaned forward, her voice calm but cutting through the silence. No, she said. You don't get to fix this with a press release. You fix it by changing who's in this room. The man's smile faltered. Cameras weren't rolling, but the moment mattered more than any headline. It was the instant Maya stopped reacting and started leading, because sometimes the real revolution doesn't begin with shouting. It begins when someone refuses to sit quietly in the face of polite injustice. And in that boardroom, for the first time, silence didn't feel like defeat, it felt like power. Weeks after that meeting, headlines changed not because Maya demanded attention, but because she earned it. The airline didn't just issue another apology. Under public pressure and her persistence, they launched one of the most comprehensive diversity reforms in the industry. Maya was invited to consult on new policies, ensuring that what happened to her would never happen again. But behind every corporate statement and policy update was something deeper, a ripple effect. Employees began sharing their own stories. People who had stayed silent for years finally spoke up. It wasn't just about a suitcase or a single flight. It was about the quiet, everyday ways people are made to feel small, and what happens when one person refuses to accept it. For Maya, the moment of humiliation that once burned with shame had transformed into something far greater purpose. She realized that change doesn't start in conference rooms or court cases. It starts with courage, the courage to be seen, even when being seen is uncomfortable. Still, she knew the world hadn't changed overnight. For every Maya, there were countless others still enduring, still unheard, and that's what kept her going, speaking, mentoring, pushing for progress in spaces that once excluded her. Her story wasn't just about a suitcase or an airline. It was a mirror showing us how easily respect can be denied, and how powerful it is when it's reclaimed. Because racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in policies, in silence, in the moments everyone else ignores. And the question that remains isn't what happened to her, it's what we'll do next. Will we keep scrolling, or will we start seeing?